The First World War wasn't just fought with rifles and artillery, it was fought with ingenuity. When the trenches filled with mud, rats and disease, soldiers couldn't rely on pristine supplies or factory-made comforts. Logistics often failed, supply lines froze, and the harsh reality of trench warfare forced men to become inventors. They had to adapt or die. Out of this desperation came some of the most clever field innovations ever recorded: improvised kits built from scraps, ration tins, and sheer determination. These makeshift tools didn't just make life bearable. In many cases, they kept soldiers alive. Today, we're going to uncover one such forgotten innovation, the improvised World War I survival kit that emerged not from an engineer's drawing board, but from the resourcefulness of men in the mud. This wasn't standard-issue gear. It was a field-born adaptation. A mix of first aid, comfort and survival rolled into one simple setup that soldiers carried, built and shared. And what makes it so fascinating is that its principles still apply to modern fieldcraft and survival today. The improvised kit began as a soldier's answer to chaos and scarcity. When the first trench systems took shape in late 1914, soldiers quickly realized they weren't going anywhere. The fight had turned static, and living conditions became nightmarish. Waterlogged dugouts, freezing winters, and the ever-present threat of infection meant that an army's biggest killer wasn't always bullets. It was disease, exposure, and injury. Standard-issue equipment failed fast. Boots rotted, rations spoiled, and medical supplies ran out. Soldiers were forced to fill the gaps with whatever they could find. Over time, this led to what many units simply called the trench kit, or Tommy's life-saver kit. It wasn't an official item, you wouldn't find it listed in quartermaster manuals, but nearly every veteran remembered carrying one. It was an improvised bundle that contained items to disinfect, repair, patch, warm and feed. A personalized survival kit built for endurance. The foundation of the kit was almost always a tobacco tin or ration can. Soldiers repurposed these small metal boxes to hold antiseptic ointment candle stubs thread and needle waterproof matches, salt, a piece of soap, and a small cloth for cleaning wounds or equipment. It may sound simple, but in trench warfare, this combination meant the difference between infection and recovery, between hunger and sustenance. One of the key features of this improvised World War I kit was versatility. Soldiers used every item in multiple ways. Candle stubs, for example, weren't just for light. They provided a small heat source for drying socks or warming hands, and could even seal food tins by dripping wax along the edges to keep out rats. Soap doubled as antiseptic for wounds and lubricant for stuck rifle bolts. The small piece of cloth might clean a wound one day and serve as a water filter the next. Perhaps the most ingenious part was the use of salt. It wasn't included for flavour. It was used to clean wounds, preserve meat, and rehydrate the body when mixed with water in emergencies. Many soldiers even carried a small spoonful of tea or sugar, rationed out in tin foil or paper, for energy and morale. These tiny comforts built psychological resilience, which was just as vital as physical endurance. In modern survival, this principle still stands. Redundancy and adaptability, really define a good survival kit. A single item should have multiple uses, and every ounce of weight must earn its keep. Whether you're packing a hiking emergency kit or a vehicle survival pack, the trench kit's lesson is timeless. Flexibility keeps you alive when systems fail. Medical care in the trenches was, well, primitive. The field dressings issued by armies were often inadequate or soaked through with mud before they could be used. So soldiers learned to improvise antiseptic solutions from what they had. One popular trench concoction, mentioned in letters and diaries, involved mixing iodine crystals, alcohol, whether from medical or even drinking supplies, and crushed salt tablets into a small bottle used for cleaning cuts and burns. Another improvised remedy involved creosote oil or coal tar scraped from supply wagons diluted in warm water. Though crude, it helped disinfect minor injuries when medical aid wasn't available. Soldiers often carried a bit of this homemade antiseptic in their kits, knowing a small infection could kill faster than a sniper's bullet. You know, this DIY mindset is still quite practical today. Understanding how to create basic antiseptic or field medicine from available materials can indeed be life-saving when professional care is, well, out of reach. For instance, modern preppers or bushcrafters often replicate this approach using alcohol-based sanitizers, iodine tinctures and clean water filtration, all of which, interestingly enough, trace their roots back to the World War I trenches. Trench foot, it was one of the great plagues of World War I. Constant moisture, cold and filth caused tissue to rot, crippling thousands of men. The improvised kit's most consistent feature became a small tin of grease or fat, anything from bacon drippings to candle wax mixed with oil. Soldiers would rub this mixture into their feet before putting on socks to repel water and reduce friction. It became such an essential practice that officers later ordered grease parades, where men lined up to apply the mixture under supervision. What began as a soldier's improvisation turned into official protocol because, well, it worked so well. For anyone studying survival or fieldcraft today, this really underscores the importance of protecting your mobility. Without the ability to move, everything else fails, plain and simple. You can actually apply the same principle with modern substitutes like petroleum jelly or wax-based balms. Just a few grams of waterproofing compound can prevent blisters, frostbite and infection. A small habit, but one that can honestly save your life. The First World War was as much a battle of endurance as it was a battle of firepower. For men trapped in the trenches, small rituals, cleaning a rifle, lighting a candle, tending to a wound, became anchors of sanity. The improvised kit wasn't just a collection of objects. It was a symbol of control in a place where control barely existed. Each soldier tailored his kit to his own needs, adding trinkets, tokens or notes from home. In the bleak world of trench warfare, that personal connection could mean survival. This speaks to something deeper about survival psychology. Having even a few tools you know and trust creates confidence and focus. Whether in a disaster scenario or a remote wilderness, self-reliance starts in the mind long before it manifests in gear. That mindset, the ability to adapt, create and persist, is the real legacy of the World War I improvised kit. If you found this look into the life-saving ingenuity of World War I soldiers fascinating, make sure to subscribe to Echoes of Valor for more deep dives into forgotten battlefield innovations, survival techniques, and the stories that shaped history from the ground up. Share this with a fellow history buff or survivalist, because the wisdom of the trenches still has lessons for those who prepare for the unexpected.